is looking into criminal wrongdoing by Donald Trump in his effort to find 11,780 votes, now says he can tie Lindsey Graham, or she can tie Lindsey Graham to this. So it's getting interesting here. Homeland Security, meanwhile, this Department of Justice Inspector General, Joseph V. Kufari, turns out this guy, first of all, he was put into place by Donald Trump. When he was nominated, he told the Senate lawmakers in a questionnaire that he had been fully truthful in his answers to the investigators, in which he basically said that he had never had any problems in his previous employment. But as Lisa Rain, Carol Leonnig, and Maria Sacchetti write for the Washington Post, in a 2013 report from the Justice Department's Inspector General, which was never publicly released, investigators said they, quote, did not believe, end quote, Joseph V. Kufari's explanation for why he failed to inform his supervisors against federal rules about his testimony in a lawsuit brought by a federal prisoner. Now, keep in mind, this is years before Donald Trump put him in as the Inspector General for the Department of Homeland Security. They concluded, we conclude Kufari's actions violated the Inspector General's manual prohibition on unethical conduct. But he lied about that when he went before the United States Senate. They note in this piece in the Washington Post, Kufari's 3 years as Homeland Security's Inspector General have been marked by numerous allegations of partisan decision-making and investigative failures, including most recently his decision in February to scrap efforts by his department to recover Secret Service texts sent during the January 6th insurrection. Now, who is this guy? Well, he had no high-level management experience, and yet he was put in charge of an agency with 750 auditors overseeing a workforce of 240,000 people with a $50 billion a year budget. No experience. In his 20-year career in government, at the peak, he was supervising 5 people. This is the guy who Donald Trump put in charge of an agency with 240,000 employees and 750 auditors answering to him. This is the guy who said, we don't need to find those text messages. We don't even need to inform Congress that we don't know where they are. We don't even need to inform the FBI. We'll just sit back and pretend everything's good. Well, I'm kind of imitating Franklin Roosevelt in my tonality there. His Social Security riff, aren't I? It goes on. Kufari knew about the missing text messages. This is from this Washington Post piece. Kufari knew about the missing texts more than a year before he alerted Congress. The Post reported that he backed off on plans to retrieve the data via forensic analysis, and thus it's most likely lost now. This is Rosemary Wood's 18 minutes. This is the, if the Nixon tapes, if Nixon had destroyed the tapes, as Haldeman suggested he should do, if my memory serves me right, if he had destroyed those tapes, he probably wouldn't have been impeached, because they wouldn't have had that smoking gun where he ordered the burglary in the Watergate Hotel and he ordered the cover-up. Chairman of the January 6th Committee, Benny Thompson, and Carolyn Maloney, who is a member of the January 6th Committee, both members of the House of Congress, have called on Kufari to recuse himself. Now, this is the thing that I don't understand. Why is Joe Biden, why is President Biden keeping this Trump appointee, this corrupt, lied to Congress to get the job, corrupt Trump appointee, why is he still in his office? Why is he still the Inspector General for the Department of Homeland Security? Why is he overseeing the investigation into himself? I don't get it. But if you have any insights into this, let me know. Walk me off this ledge, because I'm like, this is nuts. He declined, again, back to the Washington Post, Kufari declined to scrutinize the Secret Service's handling of the George Floyd protests in Lafayette Square in 2020, which was clearly, a crime and a fascist act. He said, oh, no, we don't need to look into that. That's all good. That was my guy, Donald Trump. And then when coronavirus was spreading through the Secret Service like the plague, and there was a proposal that this be investigated, that the agents were refusing to wear masks and things because Donald Trump told you. He said, oh, no, we don't need to investigate that either. When the Border Patrol was remember when those Border Patrol agents were whipping Haitian immigrants with whips and ropes from horseback and beating them? I mean, he has oversight over that too. That's part of DHS. The Border Patrol is part of DHS. He said, oh, no, we don't need to look into that. They were just beating up black people after all. Why is this guy still the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security? I think I need to call the White House comment line at 202-456-1111 and just, ask my question. What the hell is going on here? How did this happen? And then, of course, I mentioned this earlier in response to a caller, but I think it's worthy of mentioning again, and I realize, every hour of our program has a whole new set of people who just got in their car and started listening, so I'm going to repeat this. On January 4th, the acting Secretary of Defense, now, Trump had gone through I think 3 secretaries of defense in his last few months in office. It took him a while to find a guy who would help him, in my opinion. Now, this is just my opinion. It took him a while to find this Chris Miller guy, a guy who would help him in his attempt to overthrow the government of the United States. Because I don't know how else you can read this. They knew that January 6th was coming on January 4th. They knew that there were going to be as many as 10,000 people in Washington, D.C. They knew that many of them were going to be armed and heavily armed. And it turns out there were people there with AR-15s. There were people there with sidearms. They knew this. They knew this was coming. It was not a secret to anybody. And so on January 4th, 2 days before January 6th, Christopher Miller, the acting director of the department, or the acting Secretary of Defense, writes a letter to the D.C. National Guard, and Nancy Pelosi has nothing to do with the D.C. Guard. I get it, Fox News and all these fools over in right-wing radio are all going, oh, Nancy Pelosi didn't call out the National Guard. Why didn't she do? She has no say over the National Guard. As Speaker of the House, she has some control. She has a voice in the Capitol Police, but that's not the National Guard. And the Capitol Police were there and they tried to do their job. The National Guard is directly under the control of the Department of Defense, of the Secretary of Defense. And so the National Guard reached out and said, hey, January 6th is coming and we think we should be there on the steps of the Capitol. Just like they were, by the way, when the George Floyd Black Lives Matter demonstrations were happening, and you had hundreds of D.C. National Guards, fully armored, battle battalion gear, plastic shields, tear gas, masks on, mace, weapons at the side, all around the Capitol to protect the Capitol from those peaceful, it turns out, peaceful demonstrators, the Black Lives Matter demonstrations. So, the Guard reaches out to Christopher Miller and says, should we be there on January 6th to protect the Capitol? And he said, and he writes, this memorandum responds to your January 4 memorandum regarding the District of Columbia request. See, the D.C. had asked for this, for District of Columbia National Guard support in response to the planned demonstrations of January 6th. Without my subsequent personal authorization, the D.C. National Guard is not authorized to be issued weapons, ammunition, bayonets, batons, or ballistic protection equipment, such as helmets and body armor, to interact physically with protesters except when necessary in self-defense, to employ any riot control agents, to share equipment with law enforcement agencies, to use intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets to conduct incident awareness and assessment activities, to employ helicopters or any other air assets, to conduct searches, seizures, arrests, or other similar activity, or to seek support from any non-D.C. National Guard units. In other words, you may not move until I tell you you may move. And he did not tell the D.C. National Guard that they could move until the riot was over. Now, what the hell is going on with that? Inquiring minds want to know. When did Donald Trump send a message to Chris Miller, okay, you can let them go in now? What conversations did Acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller have with the D.C. National Guard, with the Trump White House on January 6th around this, and on January 4th that led to this memo? We don't know because they wiped all their phones. They wiped all their emails. All the records are gone. I am beginning to seriously believe that Chris Miller and this Kafari guy and a half a dozen other people at the senior levels of the Department of Defense, the national, not necessarily the National Guard, the Department of Defense, well, let's see, who else would be involved? The Department of Defense and Homeland Security, yeah, absolutely, Homeland Security, the FBI, that all of these agencies were looking at this going, okay, we're just going to let this riot happen because we want Trump to stay for another 4 years. I think that they were involved, actively involved, in a plot to overthrow the government of the United States, one that nearly succeeded. It almost was effective. Inquiring minds want to know, as they say.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And I have not heard the January 6th committee make one single reference to this memo. Why not?